Hello, everybody. My name is Barry Johns, and I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of Studio Talk. Well, today I'm just going to get straight to the topic at hand because I was reading on an online forum over at Gear Sluts, whatever it's known now, Gear Page, whatever, but I know it as Gear Sluts. And I was reading through some comments, and somebody made a comment about something. It had nothing to do with the point I'm making today, but it really made me think. So then I went over to Avid's website, and I started comparing some of the differences between Pro Tools Studio and Pro Tools Flex. If you're curious, if I'm looking this way, I've got a monitor back over there, so I'm kind of referring back to that as I look away. And I started going through the differences, right? I'm not going to count Pro Tools Artist because that, to me, I'm sorry, that's a toy. That's like going back in the 90s or in 2000s back to a 001, or not a 001, God forbid. I actually had one of those so long ago. Well, let's don't go there. But how about a 002 or 003, the Mbox Pro, all those things. All of those things that you had to buy their hardware to use Pro Tools had all those ridiculous limitations. To be honest with you, were absolutely insane back then. The fact that they even considered doing that today and charging for it is criminal. What Pro Tools Artists that they're currently selling for $9.99 a month, well, that should be free today, okay? Because for $60 you can get Reaper and it'll blow that thing freaking away as far as features and capabilities and everything. It won't be the same GUI and workflow, and that's a legitimate point if you have it, okay? But lots of people love it and lots of people swear by it, so it cannot be all that bad. So anyway, I'm going to head on over to Avid's website here. We've got this pulled up. And like I talked about before, you had Pro Tools Artist, and you had Pro Tools Studio and Pro Tools Flex. Well, basically, Pro Tools Studio basically got all of the features they added onto it basically were stuff that were only available in Ultimate, Pro Tools Ultimate, that you either had to use HDX or HD Native to be able to utilize fully, or a Carbon, I guess. And so a lot of those features you had to bump up to what that was the Pro Studio gear that you had to bump up to that to be able to have access to those. So basically, instead of bringing the price down like I thought they'd do, they gave you a bunch of features. And I'll be honest with you, most of those features they gave you, for most people, you're never going to use, okay? I don't see you doing surround sound or anything like that. I'm talking about the average user. Of course, some of you out there may do that. And if you do, enjoy it. Have fun doing it, okay? So anyway, basically, Pro Tools Studio became the previous version of Pro Tools, whatever the heck they called it back then, because they're always constantly freaking changing the names. But the previous version of it, it's basically that on steroids. And it's basically Ultimate downgrading halfway down. So it's like those two meeting in the middle is what Pro Tools Studio is today as far as the features. Now, whether or not you'll take advantage of all those features, that's the debatable point I was making. So, but that brought that down. But you cannot use Pro Tools Studio, that now middle tier thing. You cannot use it with any HDX hardware. So you cannot go there with it, okay? You also cannot use it with a lot of their, what do you call them? Control surfaces like I have back there. That's the main reason I've been on Pro Tools Ultimate for all these decades at this point, mainly at this stage of the game, so I can continue using that D command, which is going up for sale because, hold on there, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. This just arrived, okay? And so that, once I get used to it, and if I like it and everything, and I'm expecting that I will because it was so easy jumping in and getting into yesterday. Haven't had much time today to work on it. But that, if everything works great, then I'll add a couple more, and that will replace my 24-channel D command. And then I'm open without any restrictions to any DAW that I want and be able to continue my workflow. So now we got Pro Tools Studio. It's like a previous hybrid Pro Tools Ultimate and then the previous middle version of Pro Tools on steroids. Okay, so we got that meeting ground, right? So when you go down through here and you scroll, of course, Pro Tools Flex is now the new, what they called Ultimate. Basically, Pro Tools Flex is the Mac Daddy. The point that I'm going to be having you ask yourself, or the question I'm going to be having you ask yourself, is notice, who do you think today Pro Tools Flex, previously Ultimate, is marketed to? let's remember when Pro Tools HD first came out, it was predominantly marketed to high-end recording studios, right? Okay. It wasn't until a little bit later that got started working into post, and Avid had a lot to do with that transition, bringing their technology. And I don't know a whole lot about that, so that's probably an overgeneralization, but that's roughly how things got started and everything. So it was definitely back in the day, for the majority of its lifespan so far, has been geared towards, like the HDX world, has been geared towards professional recording studios. But is that the case today? So let's go down here and look. Okay, here we've got basically everything's included in software. Okay, we go down to here and all of their plugins, or we're only going to remember, we're only comparing the middle one. So this one over here, just ignore that. But you've got the production bundle, which I don't use any of that crap. I don't think any of it's worth using, but hey, you may like it, enjoy it. All right. I think it's something they throw in there to make it seem like a big deal, and it's just not. The only advantage you have to using some of those plugins is during tracking, so you can take advantage of DSP because you have limited DSP plugins these days. Anyway, I digress. All right. So now we're going to go over here and inner circle. Who cares about that crap? Nobody ever pays attention to that stuff. All right. So now you got audio tracks. Okay. Well, before you had a boatload more audio tracks in Pro Tools Ultimate. So if you're down here to this middle ground right now, you can only have 512 audio tracks. That's all you can have, ladies and gentlemen. 512. Can you get it done? I think you can. And so I'm sorry about, but over here, the Mac Daddies, they get 2,048. Now, who would need that many gazillion freaking tracks? What kind of sources could be done with audio that need that kind of number of tracks that they're actually going to use them? Well, that would be post, ladies and gentlemen. You got a major motion picture. Can you imagine being the guy on that? Ooh, trying to keep track of that'd be a nightmare. They do that stuff in Teams. That's why everything's networked. Okay, anyway. So that would be the reason you'd need to go that far, okay? And so instrument tracks, basically same number. I don't ever use 512 instrument tracks, but you can if you want to. And then aux tracks, you get 128 now. Used to get a boatload more with Ultimate, but if you're going down to this one here, now up here you get 1024. Again, I've never no, 128 buses in an audio recording. I'm recording a band with 128 buses. What am I freaking recording? A 6,000-piece orchestra? I don't know. Forget it. That ain't happening. So again, non-issue. All right. So obviously this over here is geared towards what? You get where I'm going. You get, yeah, right. Okay. VCA tracks the same. Master tracks. Again, I'll give it to you again. I've used 2, I think, is the most I've used, but I'm sure a lot of people found other creative uses for it. And then video tracks. So what this means is you can do some very basic video editing stuff when you're doing surround or something, with this. But if you're really doing any kind of post-production, you cannot do that. You simply can't get it done. I'm just going to argue you can't really do any post-production with just one video track. So there you go again, all right? No need to give more to that because you're simply not going to use it, all right? Simultaneously recording input, 64 versus 256. Now, this is something where you might have to stay Ultimate if you're recording symphonies and maybe large theater groups and all kinds of things that might get you beyond 64, but the average mortal, I've never seen a 64-track band instruments being tracked at one time in a average recording studio. Not saying it hasn't happened. I'm just saying, come on, please. All right. Anyway, now you've got all of the interfaces that you can use. Of course, you could always use Carbon with regular native before, and those are all pretty much standard. That pretty much looks like it stayed the same. Everything else the same. And then what's this big old purple dot right there that kind of tells me everything I need to know? For this, you get advanced audio for post tool set. Now, I had to read that and try to get a little thing. All right, so what do you think that means, guys? I mean, here's what that tells me. Avid is basically saying, now I don't mean to ruffle any of you feathers out there. Remember, I'm talking to people across all spectrums. I got to get ahead of this a little bit. But I think Avid's telling me what we all really already know is the professional recording studio is dead. It's dead. It's hanging on by threads at this point. It's hanging on by threads. Okay. I'm talking about where you can really get in there and do a lot of money, make a lot of money doing this stuff. No, no, no. You might be able to make a decent income in your local studio market. I would argue with overhead and everything else. I'm going to tell you that's going to be incredibly difficult to do. But there's some of you out there doing really well in it and keep it up. But this is clearly telling me that Avid is basically saying we're not wasting our time putting all of our energy into the professional recording studio. We're just not going to do it. Those studios that exist today are the ones, if they do exist, those are the ones that will remain. It's incredibly difficult to open a new studio because let's face it, look at what we can do in such a small space, and most of us can deal with that space. All right, so these are things I think Avid is clearly saying and should tell a lot of us really what's behind this. You know, I've been critical of a subscription plan for DAWs. I think those of us who were creative, we don't like the idea of all of a sudden maybe we come on hard times. I mean, the pandemic's pretty up and close to most of us, fall on hard times, and maybe we got to give Pro Tools up for a couple months. Well, that means you can't work on anything you've done before, nothing. You're just locked out. You are locked out. You're stuck. You're dead in the freaking water, okay? Until you can get that money to divvy up for the next month's payment, okay? This is also something you're never going to own it, right? And for something like that, for something so near and dear to your heart and your creative emotions and everything, it's hard to say, I don't own every aspect of my music. Okay. Well, if you can't access mixing and doing and adding more and making changes to your music or whatever you feel compelled to do, if you can't access it, your heart's kind of been taken away. And so I think that's the way a lot of people feel about it. It's different with plugins. Plugins can get replaced, but the core of a DAW, no, to start from scratch with the raw tracks in a new DAW and learn that just because you fell on hard times, that's a hard pill to swallow. So I mean, I was hoping Avid would come in and really come. If this were coming in at $14.99 a month for what is it they're calling it again, Pro Tools Studio. If it was coming in at that price, you wouldn't see me complaining or making any observations. I'd still say, I don't know, but there's a big difference between that and this dollar amount, okay? And so that's what you've got to consider. If they truly are basically sending the message, and to me, I don't know about you, but to me, it's loud and freaking clear. Okay. They're basically telling us straight up with this new plan, hobbyists, local musicians, we really don't care about you. If you're dumb enough to pay this money and flush this money down the drain, and I don't care if you're a billionaire, that's still flushing money down the drain. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to call you dumb if you're in this, but hey, this is my opinion. You can disagree with me if you want, and I apologize for calling you dumb. That's probably I should have chose better words. So I'm telling you, I'm sorry right out of the gate. It's not wise. I will tell you that in my opinion, I don't think, right? And you came here for my opinion, so you can take it or leave it like anything else. Okay. Anyway, I'm spending too much time on that. All right. So, but you just why would you do it? Okay, it doesn't make any sense to me when there's so many other amazing DAWs out there that quite are not as hard as I thought they would be to learn. I have jumped back into Logic, which I'd used years ago. I've jumped back into that now. I'm flowing pretty good so far with it, and I've also started delving into Studio One, and I really like Studio One, and I think that's probably where I'm going to end up. That's probably at least a 75% chance at this point. One thing I do know for sure, I am not going to continue my utilization of Pro Tools. I still have old versions of it. That the only problem with that, I guess, I don't know if I can, oh gosh, I just opened up a whole other can of worms for myself. I'm talking about pulling up older sessions, but anyway, that's my problem, not yours. All right. So anyway, that's what this tells me today. I think Avid's making it clear to all of us that they are that they're interested. I'm not going to say they don't care about you. They just don't. They're not interested in that level of your business because I think you're going to see a revolving door come in and out as people see videos like this that merely make them stop and think instead of a knee-jerk reaction thinking. So they're somehow getting this superior DAW because it's got this name Pro Tools that has a long, beautiful history that Avid is destroying. But anyway, that's what they're doing. Lots of companies. It's happened to lots of companies. Anybody seen Kmart lately? Hey, what about a Toys R Us? What about those? I don't know. Those are like big companies. Where'd they go? Where'd they go? Sears? I don't know. Sears was like the dominant force for most of my life, and where's it at? I don't know. Hey, Avid, could that be you? If you like the things I talk about on this channel, do me a favor, hit that like button and then that subscribe button, and then go hit that notification bell so when you know I've got a new video out. I appreciate if you leave some comments down below. Let me know what you think. Let's talk back and forth. I love the engagement. I love the talk. I love to see the conversations back and forth amongst all of you. But share your opinions. If it's okay to go in there and disagree with me, just don't be a jerk about it. Just because we don't hold the same opinion doesn't mean you got to freaking attack me. That happens every once in a while, I have to admit, and I have to reel my emotions back in. Like, why are you doing that? I'm just another guy. Give me a break, okay? Go down and leave some comments, all right? I got a bunch of videos out there. Most of my videos are kind of meant to be as relevant today as they were the day they are, and just as relevant 10 years from now, or at least I try to make them. This one, probably not so much. But anyway, so until next time, I hope all of you have a great day. Bye-bye.